something that I do with the audiences I speak to is I ask people to stand up if they remember what they did on their 8th birthday. And no one can remember. Like I did it to a group of foster carers recently, and out of the 20 people, not one person stood up. And then in the end, the police arrived and they arrested me. I was handcuffed, put in the back of the police car, and they emptied my pockets and they saw this mobile phone. And they went, "What's this?" And I went, "Oh, I've recorded the whole thing for you, so you can just check it out here." And it's difficult for people to, I feel like it's difficult for people to understand that, because they're like, "Oh, it was so severe. How can you not remember like what happened before and what happened after, and how the grooming process was, and how did it even start? When was the first time?" Like, you know, you don't remember that much from you don't remember those kind of details from your early years, especially as young as 8.
What keeps you going in this work?
The fact that children and teenagers have a right to a safe and playful childhood, and it is our responsibility as adults to provide it for them. And so that's what we must do.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Be Brave Project podcast. Today's episode feels really important because we're not only talking about lived experience, we're also talking about how we actually prevent abuse from happening in the first place. I'm joined today by Jeremy Indika, speaker, podcast host, and founder of Something to Say. Jeremy started out as a design engineer at McLaren and made a huge shift in his life to focus on preventing sexual abuse in children and young people, both offline and online. His work is rooted in lived experience and now centres around helping children, parents and communities feel more confident about having these really tricky conversations. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be great. So first of all, I would love for people that are watching and listening to get to know who you are outside of the work that you do at the moment.
And I've been thinking about how to answer that. And I suppose one way I can answer it is a friend, a father, a husband, and somebody who is trying his best to figure out the best ways to discuss a very difficult topic.
Love that. That's great. I love that. And your work is rooted in lived experience, and most of the people that come onto this podcast have obviously got lived experience. So if you are comfortable, would you mind telling the listeners and the people that are watching about your experience and what has led you to what you do now?
Okay, so there was something going on when I was around 8 years old, and unfortunately I can't find the exact dates of when this was happening, but there was a man who had access to me. He was around 35 years old at that time, and he had access to me through my dad. So he was actually my dad's friend.
Okay.
And my parents had recently separated, so this was happening at my dad's house when I was there. And this man was looking after me at times. My dad was a busy man. He was a doctor, so he needed to be at work mostly. And unfortunately, he took a liking to me, I would say, and began to groom me into doing sexual things with him. Now, the details I don't know, because I was 8 years old, with regards to, well, you know, like the grooming process, how did that start? I don't remember it. What I do have is I have a selection of memories in my head, kind of flash moments that I could create a short video on. Like, I remember how it felt, I remember the smell, I remember the feelings, and I probably got about 10 or 11 of those. But outside of those flash moments, like, I don't remember like what I did the morning of one of the incidents. And it's difficult for people to, I feel like it's difficult for people to understand that, because they're like, "Oh, it was so severe. How can you not remember like what happened before and what happened after, and how the grooming process was, and how did it even start? When was the first time?" Like, you know, you don't remember that much from you don't remember those kind of details from your early years, especially as young as 8. So this just went on approximately for a year. I can't find the exact dates, but I kept the secret very well, and I showed no signs to anyone.
Wow. Do you remember him ever saying to you not to tell anyone, or was it just something that you felt like you didn't want to say anything?
I don't remember a specific moment of him saying, don't tell anyone, but he must have taught me that this is something we don't say, or we may be in trouble for this. Your dad will be in trouble.
Yeah.
I won't be able to look after you. Who's going to look after you? He must have packaged it.
Yeah.
Or did he package it as, this is something grown-ups do, and we'll be in trouble if anyone finds out about it? I had no reference point. A point that I want to make often is, like, when I was 8 years old, it was 1993. Everything was different.
Yeah.
8-year-old children today are completely different, just by the way of education.
And online and social media.
And their exposure to adult themes. We've taught 8-year-olds. I mean, 8-year-olds are fed up of the body safety and online safety lesson by the time they get to 8.
Yeah.
So we taught them so many times. I didn't have that.
No.
Right. So I was a naive child without the tools and knowledge. Now, that is not blaming anyone from my era, right? Because that's the way it was. Thankfully, it's not like that anymore. Yeah. So yes, maybe he had packaged it as a secret that we must keep, otherwise there'd be trouble in some respect. But also, it was just something that was happening to me that I had no way of understanding what it was, because I didn't have any tools in my toolkit to analyze it or recognize it or have a reference point to it. So it just continued.
Yeah. Oh, God, it makes me so angry.
Yeah.
It's quite, yours is quite similar. You were groomed, I was groomed, and I get a lot of people asking me that. Well, how come you can't remember specific? And I remember when I was going through the trial and the investigation, all these people around me were going, "Can you be a bit more specific?" No, there's so many things that I blocked out because I tried to keep myself safe as well. And I think we try to survive, don't we? So we do box it up so far in the back of our brain. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been things that have definitely come up since speaking out about it and things, but it's, the specifics are really hard to, but like you, there's certain sort of snippets that I can remember.
Right. But look, it's like, for anybody that's listening that, for me, I understand that that's complicated or difficult to kind of understand. Well, these are such severe moments, why can't you remember? Something that I do with the audiences I speak to is I ask people to stand up if they remember what they did on their 8th birthday. And no one can remember. Like I did it to a group of foster carers recently, and out of the 20 people, not one person stood up because nobody could remember. Now, could they remember a birthday from their childhood? Probably. Yeah. Can they remember what year that was? No. If they can remember 2 birthdays, can they remember what order they came in? And so we're talking about, as a child, one of the most significant days of your year, but you can't remember the details. Yeah. So that kind of gives us an idea, or allows us to put ourselves in the mind of how we remember our childhood. Yeah. And so if we can't remember significant moments like that, why would we be able to remember significant moments like this?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's such a good way of putting it.
It's about trying to help. My ideas are to try to help people that haven't been through it understand it. Because the more everybody understands it, the better we're going to do around it.
Yeah. That's so true. So true. And a great way of putting it. I think I'm definitely going to use that.
Take that. Take it.
So talking about you, the beginning, I said that, you worked for McLaren. Now, you obviously don't. It was a massive shift in your life. What was the moment that you suddenly went, I need to stop what I'm doing and do this?
Okay, so it's so crazy even just reflecting back on it. That was such a great life. High flying company, prestigious, industry breaking company. Very exciting and very well paid.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So to leave all of that behind was quite the decision. But there is probably one of the turning points on that decision. There would have been many that contributed to it, but one of the highlights is definitely when I started researching this topic, and I was seeing what was going on out there, because I'd never spoke to anybody at this point about who had been through something similar.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No
how
problem.
long ago was this in terms of where you are now?
Okay, so this kind of happened at 32 years old. I'm now 40, so 8 years old.
Okay.
This was like really the straw that broke the camel's back with, right, let's do this. And that was after doing probably about 18 months worth of like searching online. Who else has got a story like mine? Who else is out there? And finding
hardly anything. Yeah.
Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, web pages, chat rooms. And I started reading these people's stories and disclosures, and I literally couldn't believe it, because it had never come into my kind of circle about other people that had been through this. And I read a story from an 80-year-old woman, and she wrote that she had never told anybody about what happened to her when she was a child, and the suppression of that had hindered her life in so many different ways. Friendship issues, trust issues, relationship issues. And she spoke about that she came from an era where you could not talk about this even if you wanted to. It wouldn't be received. And I felt so sad for her. I thought, what a terrible lack of opportunity there was for her. And that's what made me think, well, hang on a minute. I come from an era where you can do something about this, where you can talk about this. We have social media for starters. We have the online world for starters. You can write a post, you can communicate with people, even if you don't want to communicate with them face to face. And this subject is better received today. You know, it's far from where we want it to be. We're still in the Stone Ages with it, I believe, but we're a lot better than how it was with this 8-year-old woman growing up. And that's when I thought, I should try and do something about this. And at this moment, at 32 years old, I actually spoke out for the first time at 27 years old.
Okay.
So 5 years prior. So I had spent 5 years speaking with my close friends about it. We'd had many conversations about it. And I'd also spoken to their girlfriends and their wives about it. And that's as far as I went. So I'd had a number of conversations over the 5 years. I hadn't told my parents by this point, and I hadn't reported to the police by this point. But after reading this story from this 8-year-old woman, I thought, I've had such a fortunate journey. Once the abuse finished, I boxed it up, buried the box very deep underground, and continued my life. I had great friendship groups. I had great careers. I had great mentors throughout my career, and I had a great time. And then at 27, when I spoke for the first time, the lead up to that was very difficult, but I had great responses to my disclosures. And I believe just through the decades, through the years, I just built this confidence and built the correct skill set in my career as well, being an engineer, problem solver, brainstorming ideas, generating ideas. I think just whether I realised it on a conscious level or not, I just thought I could probably do something about this. So that's when I decided, right, let's put this career to the side. I just finished the contract, a particular contract at McLaren, and I designed a car called Speedtail, which is a limited edition vehicle.
Wow.
Only 106 in the world. It sold at 2 million each, like amazing. Wow. And I just finished the design of that particular project. And that kind of was like, right, okay, so do I move on to the next contract, or where do I go from here? Well, actually, no, let's just stop that for a moment and let's try this other thing. So that's when I embarked on this crazy mission.
That's insane, because that's such a scary thing to do as well.
Yeah.
You have something that is secure, like you said, it's money, it's your career, it's what you know, to suddenly go, I'm going to do something different. I mean, I get it as well, because it's kind of what I'm doing right now. You know, it's completely something that's not what I thought I was ever going to do. But I suppose when you're so passionate about something, it leads you, doesn't it? So I mean, what you're doing is amazing. And I also really would like to touch on, if you're okay with this, and I know that you've spoken about it on your socials a bit, about when you did come forward to the police and then what happened with the perpetrator, because then it kind of turned around onto you.
Yeah. So I reported to the police.
So is this when you were 32?
So no, this was when I was 32, and I feel like, and I may be proved wrong, right, at some point when I get the opportunity to do some more digging, but I feel like the police did as much as they possibly could, given the limited resources that they have and the crazy hours that they're working.
Yeah.
And they spoke to everybody who I'd spoken to over the years. They needed to speak to my parents, my dad. So I had to go and tell my dad, which was sad.
Yeah.
He never really recovered from that, which is very, very sad.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to keep it from him.
Yeah.
I keep it from my parents, actually, because only a negative. There's never any positive that's going to come out of telling them. Even with the work I do now, it doesn't matter. They feel like it's their fault that I've had to do this.
Yeah.
So the police investigation, they tried. But look, this happened 20 odd years before I reported to the police, and it happened in a non-digital era.
Yep.
So there's no record. And people get very angry at the NFA result, so the no further action result by the police. But we wouldn't want a justice system where you could say something about someone and get them put in prison.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want that.
No.
Right? Because if somebody came and said something about me and they were able to put me in prison without any evidence, well, I wouldn't want that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's a stable way of looking at it, right? Because I don't have any evidence. The evidence that I have is we have proof that he was at our house because there's some photographs.
Yeah.
My dad gave a statement in the police investigation, which unfortunately I can't get a hold of because of data protection.
Yeah.
I'm desperate to see it because I want to see what my dad said, and I want to see his statement too.
Can you not ask him, or is he?
My dad's not around anymore.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. So this is a big contributor of why he's not around. He spiraled out of control.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And being a father now, I can feel his pain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wasn't a father when he was alive.
Okay.
So I feel like I could just have such better connecting conversations with him now. And I didn't. And I only spoke to him about it twice. The day I told him and the day he gave his statement.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm always questioning whether I should have spoke to him about it more.
I know, but you can't. I'm everything that you're saying. I'm feeling everything, but I know how hard it is.
Yeah, I'm never going to win because, first of all, I'll never know what the correct decision should have been. But also, I think it was just so painful for him. Like, he brought the man into the house. Yeah. He trusted the man. He gave me to the man. Mm-hmm. He took me to the man's house sometimes when we must have needed childcare. So the conversation was probably just too painful for him. Yeah. So either or, I lose. We all lose.
Yeah.
So one thing that the police definitely made a mistake on, but I don't know what their kind of requirements would be around this. So maybe they didn't make a mistake, but maybe the requirements are not at the set at the correct level. Is once I had given my statement, which took 3 hours to get through, and I described everything in the best detail that I possibly could. I didn't hold back. And then they interviewed everybody I'd spoken to over the years. That should have been enough to arrest him at his house.
100%.
And seize his computer and his mobile phone.
And that didn't
happen. So it was voluntary arrest.
What does that mean?
They called him and asked him to come to the station because there'd been an accusation.
Well, he's not going to come down, is he?
Well, first of all, that prepares his... Yeah. He can mentally prepare.
Exactly, yeah.
So any reaction that is immediate to the police turning up at his door could be used not as evidence but supporting evidence, I would say, especially if we were to analyse it from like a human behaviour expert. And he was able to take himself to the station and answer the questions. Of course, he denied it. I fully understand that he would deny it. Like, who would... Yeah, no, you're not going to... Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, because you're never returning back to society after this particular crime. So that pushes people to deny it to the end. Yeah. And the thing is, if his computer and mobile phone was seized and there was anything on there, like it's not a guarantee that anything would have been on there, but if there was anything on there, that would have been supporting evidence for my claim. So in the end, it was a result was at NFA. I arranged a meeting with one of the senior police officers at this time and asked, what is it that you need from a historic case? And we went through those kind of details. I didn't have any of the things that he mentioned. And then I was angry.
I'm not surprised. Don't blame you.
I was angry. I felt lost. Because the reason for the prosecution attempt was to get him put on a register of some sort so we can monitor what he's doing, what job he's doing, what he's doing online. It was to get him to serve some kind of prison time. And it was to let him know that our eyes are on him if he's continuing to do it. That was the original drive. So once I got told that the police couldn't do anything, then I'm like, well, we can't even solve those things.
Yeah.
Right. So if he is continuing to do it, then whose responsibility is that?
Yeah.
Of course it's his, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And so I ended up going on a very, or I would say, unstable mission of finding out where he lived. And I went and knocked on his door. And the short story of that is the police arrived. There was no physical violence, and I was very confident that there wouldn't be from my side. My friends were pleading with me not to do this, but I was very confident that nothing would happen. And just to prove my confidence, even prove it to myself, was before I went and knocked on the door, I got my mobile phone out and I pressed record on voice note and put it in my pocket. Now that shows how confident I was.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't want anything that happened at that door to be taken out of context or him say something that didn't happen. And in the end, the police arrived and they arrested me. I was handcuffed, put in the back of the police car.
Oh my God.
And they emptied my pockets and they saw this mobile phone and they went, "What's this?" And I went, "Oh, I've recorded the whole thing for you, so you can just check it out here." So it was like it just felt like a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was very powerful. Like me standing at the door, I had the door open. He's screaming over everything I was saying, trying to shut the door, and he couldn't because I had my foot planted, and it was like the tables had completely turned.
Yeah.
But he prosecuted me. So I was charged with stalking for the times I'd messaged him, because there's obviously loads to this story that we could spend 3 hours getting into. But I had messaged him on social media a number of times. I'd messaged his wife. I'd confronted his wife at her primary school that she worked at, which was around the corner from his house, trying to get him to speak to me.
Okay.
Right. So the stalking and harassment charges were there. And assault, because when I pushed the door open to get him to stop him from slamming it shut, I left the red mark on his chest. Okay. And so he was claiming the assault. There was a trial, magistrate's court.
Oh my God.
It was a day trial.
Oh my God.
And it started with my barrister saying, "We want to hope this goes well, because stalking and harassment, you're going to be going to prison for 6 months. So let's do this properly." That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Now, the day unfolded like a film, right? Yeah. So I walk in and there's 3 judges at a magistrate's court, well, when I was there anyway, and they're looking at me like I'm just the next person who's...
Yeah, you're just a number, aren't you?
Right. They've got drug charges, driving charges, drinking charges coming through the door. That's what they're just dealing with. And it's like a conveyor belt. So I'm just next. And him and his wife gave statements and they just crumbled under the pressure of the questioning. And it just felt really telling. Like, it just started shifting the atmosphere, because they were being asked straight questions like, why was this man at the door? Now, we were told we cannot keep mentioning why I'm at the door.
Okay. Why?
because that's been investigated and closed.
Right.
There needs to be context, so they need to know why I was there. But we're not here to talk about
what he did. Yeah, okay.
Because the police have investigated that, and it didn't happen.
That must have been really hard for you.
Yeah, because that's all I wanted to keep saying.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I said it a few times. I probably said to the judge, through seeing them crumble under the dock, it was like just flooding me with strength.
Yeah.
Because when it was my turn, I was feeling so strong.
That's amazing.
And I answered all the questions, and I looked at him. His wife wasn't there. And he was like from here 10 meters away from me. And he didn't look at me once. And I'm pretty sure I said to the judge at some point, well, what would you have done? What would you have done if this was your child? And I'm pretty sure they shut me down because you can't go down those roads. But, I was pushing the boundary a little bit. Yeah. And in the end, I was found guilty for the assault, £1,000 fine, restriction order from that part of the country, criminal record, and not guilty for the stalking and harassment. But look, I did bad things, right? I shouldn't have found where he lived in the way that I did. But it's very important part of the story because you have someone who, this happened to at 8 years old, boxed it up, buried it, didn't do anything with it, still led a very successful, fun, great life, enjoyable life. And then it coming back at 25, which led me to say something at 27, which led me to just put more focus on it until I was 32, leave a career. I was sleeping on couches, sleeping in my car, spending all my money. Yeah. And then I go on this mission in pursuit of him and I end up at his door. And none of that's stable. And it's just a good maybe lesson for us all to understand that these things can lay dormant for many decades and they can come up, and if not addressed in the correct way, with great support, whether that be professional, friends, family, things can spiral out of control. And I believe they did for me. Yeah. But thankfully, nothing serious happened off the back of it.
I mean, it's intense. And I want to say I'm sorry for what you were put through, because there has been so many times that I have wanted to confront my abuser. I haven't. And I don't really know why I haven't. Maybe I haven't been as brave, because I think what you did was ultimately, what I think of it as, is so brave. That's how I see it, because I know you went to the magistrate court and you were convicted for, what did you say?
It was the assault.
The assault, sorry, yeah. But I mean, it makes me angry. So I'm like, it literally should have been the other bloody way around. And he got away with what he did. But I think you were just very brave for what you've done, for, changing your career, speaking out, doing what you did. I understand why you wanted to do it, because there is that part of me that wants to as well. I even actually, so my abuser is in prison at the moment. He was up for parole last year, and he's up for parole again in about a month, I think, which is not great. And he wasn't granted parole last year. And I remember speaking to the parole officer, and I said, can I have a photo of him? I want to see what he looks like. No, we can't do that. But can I know where no, we can't do that. But surely, why? He knows what I look like. He knows everything about me, but I don't know anything about him. Why can't I have a photo of him? Why can't I see what he looks like now? Because when I was when we did the trial, I had a curtain. I didn't want to see him at the time. Even now, I'm like, I wish I had. But at the time, I couldn't. Yeah. Whether it was happening now, maybe I would. I don't know. But there's so many things that they're not allowed. They're so protected, and that angers the fuck out of me.
Which angers me as well, because he was convicted.
Yeah, and he's still being protected. And that I can't find any. And I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I have tried to look for him and search for him, and I can't find anything on him. I haven't done a load of digging. I probably could. Yeah. But there's also a part of me that doesn't. I'm not sure if I. Yeah. It's like I'm kind of conflicting with myself, but I think what you did was incredibly brave, and you stood up to a monster. And even though you were an adult doing it, it was still your inner child doing it for you. And I think, you've protected him in some way. So, incredibly brave.
Thank you. And we want to just put out there that enough is enough.
Yeah.
We've got to do something about this, and the people that are doing it, and the people that have done it. And I think back about how I was feeling throughout that whole period of my life, and I never really second guessed it. Like, this is what we're doing next. This is what we're doing next. This is what we're doing next. Even though many people around me were like, "Can you just calm down for a moment?" But yeah, enough is enough, and we've got to do something about this. And these people that offend against children, they're actually the weak ones.
Yeah.
Right? Because first of all, as long as they're of sound mind in some respect, they know the rules, right? Yeah. And they couldn't resist the temptation to break them, or they didn't care about breaking them, right? There's a true weakness there. So I probably felt at the time that I need to overcome this fear that I have of this man. And because it was a fear, even as an adult, because when I found him on social media and I saw his pictures for the first time after 20 years, like, I felt panic. I could feel my heart beating, but I was 32 at that point. So I had the development to recognize that my inside emotions had started to change. Yeah. And I feel like it was because when I saw his face again, it was a quick rewind into thinking I was 8 years old again. Yeah. That he was a threat to me. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's about time that we started changing the narrative.
Definitely. And I think that kind of goes on to the next question that I really want to get into about what you're doing now and your education and something to say and, you going into schools. So what do you think society, people, we are still getting wrong when it comes to protecting children?
I think we're getting the conversations with them wrong.
Can you explain?
Because we are led to believe by sensationalized media, mostly, and our discomfort around the conversation is allowing us to only think about this crime being a forceful, violent act that's full of panic.
Yeah.
And there are lots of situations that involve that kind of situation, but not all of them do. And a large proportion of them involve trickery, manipulation, and
would you say kindness?
Because yeah, you know what I'm getting
at.
Yeah. So that's the bit that we are nowhere near exploring yet. And because I think it's too uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
And too worrying when we start to think about the vulnerabilities of a child or a teenager. And with kindness, I think it's a great word actually that you use, and bribes and affirmations and good dopamine hits, you can get a child or teenager on your side and then exploit them with whatever you want to do with them. And when we're missing that part of the conversation, what we're then doing is the education and the communication that we're having with young children and teenagers about this. It's all about, if you feel scared, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel panicked, come and speak to us. And it's not a balanced conversation, because then we're missing all the children and teenagers in that particular school who actually are in a situation where the rules are being broken, but they're made to feel good about it.
Or they don't realise that because I think there's another element of grooming, even when sort of talking about my experiences, and sorry to interrupt you, but when I was being groomed, it was all of that, the kindness, the affirmations, the giving me gifts and treats and things. I didn't realise as a 9-10-year-old, I had no idea that that's what he was going to. So that's one thing that I talk about as well, and I get so worried about, especially when my daughter, she's 8, she's nearly the same age I was when it all began, and I talk also about the fact that I'm a single mum. She goes with her dad a lot, and even though I trust him fully with her, I don't trust anyone else,
Right.
because I know what grooming is, and like exactly what you said. It's not about that. I mean, like you were saying, there's situations that are like that, but it's not always panic, fear. Oh my God, what's happening? I don't want him to do that to me, or don't want her to do that to me. It's such a slow process where children do not understand that it's happening. So when they get to that point, it's already happened.
Right.
So how do we prevent that? And exactly what you were saying, having those conversations, and they are uncomfortable because people do not want to talk about grooming and how coercive and clever and manipulative these abusers are. But that is the conversation we need to have. And
also that this can not only come from adults.
Yeah.
Right. So it can come from teenagers, and it can come from other children too.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't use the latest terminology, as far as I know it, is we don't say that a teenage child or teenager abused another child or teenager. We say sexually harmed.
Yeah.
And it can come from all ages, and that's also then another barrier of discomfort that we don't want to explore. Yeah. But until we understand the breadth of the crime, which is really has evolved to be kind of the message I'm trying to deliver, until we can understand the breadth of it, we can't have a balanced conversation with these young people. And actually, you'll find that the 15-year-olds are sitting in another PSHE lesson just being like, these teachers, they just don't understand. Like, it's just the same old straightforward message. They're not in our world. They're old and they're ancient and they just don't get us. And that is the general response. And I know that because I start one of my talks when I deliver to teenagers and I say, I want you just to pretend that there's no teachers in the room. And I want you to tell me if you have been taught 1,000,000 times about body safety and online safety, and if you are fed up of that conversation. And they all go, like this. And I do that for a number of reasons, right? I'm trying to build some rapport with them. Right? I've got an hour with them. Yeah. I'm just another old man coming to lecture them about something boring. Right. So I need to work that out. So I give them an opportunity to actually just say, right. Because they are fed up with that straightforward, formal, clinical education. They want a balanced conversation. And the quicker we can have those in age appropriate ways with young people, the better we stand a chance that they're going to speak about something before it turns before it gets more extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. And having those conversations with them as well about saying, you know, I suppose it comes from, don't take sweets from a stranger. We talk about that, but also don't accept things like that from someone that you know as well, and tell someone. And I think I drill it into my daughter. You tell me everything. You tell me everything. We very lucky. I've got a very, very good relationship with her. We're very open. She does know that I was... Obviously, I don't go into detail with her, even though she's constantly wanting to ask. And I'm like, no. But she knows that I was abused and by the dangerous, naughty man. And we are very, very open. And so there's one thing that when she does go off with her dad, and I don't know who she's with, I know I have to trust that she would tell me anything and everything. And I think she would. But there is still that. There's still that fear of...
Because there's always risk.
There is. And we know. We know that risk more than anyone.
And you can't avoid the risk.
No.
As a parent, unless you are going to follow your child round.
Everywhere
Don't
they
go.
Be honest, there's parts of me that wants to do that.
In every room that they're ever in, right? Unless you're going to do that, you can't 100% protect your child, especially with today's online environment.
I know. It's just... And sort of brings me on to the next question, I suppose, would be, what should parents actually be saying to their children, and how early should that start?
I think body safety rules can be taught as early as the ages where you start teaching them the parts of the body.
Agreed.
So when you are teaching them where the nose, eyes and ears are, the arms, legs, feet, hands are, you can teach them where the private areas are.
Yeah.
And you haven't got to explain anything about those. You just label them. So they've at least got a name.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, if you want to use the proper the atomy definitions, then that's up to you.
Yeah.
Not everybody feels comfortable doing that, which feels odd because they're just names.
Yeah.
But we've been brought up like that, so
Yeah.
we carry that on. And I think that would be worthwhile doing. So when you draw an outline of a person and you're labeling up the parts and the body, you just label some private areas, which in accordance with the NSPCC's guidelines, that is underneath your swimwear, right? So for girls, it's slightly different to boys. And I think that it wouldn't be a harm to start that at a very early age.
Yeah, I agree.
And then as they start to get older, you can ask them, you can explain why we have these areas that are private. I also like no-go zones also as a label, because private can have a little bit of a fear layer on it.
Yeah.
I think no-go zones, actually, that is what it is. It's a no-go zone. And it's important for us to explain that this is not just about our bodies, that's other people's bodies as well.
Yeah.
That's very important. And then, of course, as they, I would say, get to 10 years old, 11 years old, they'll start becoming more curious about what's going on and the ideas around consent, around personal space. So it hasn't got to be about sex. The sex has never entered this conversation yet. I haven't mentioned that word yet, right? It's just we go straight to it. Why we call it sex education, I don't know. It just puts people off immediately.
It does, yeah.
And you just evolve the conversation. But in summary, even if as a parent you wouldn't feel confident doing any of that, I think the number one aim is for your children to feel confident around coming to you about something that's going on in their life that they've got a bit of an ick about. Right, so that earliest gut feeling stage. Not to just let it play itself out. Maybe something's happened online. Maybe you've just made a mistake when you were playing FIFA online and you just gave your WhatsApp out because you weren't paying attention to the person that was messaging you on the live environment. You want them to come to you straight away because we can help you with that.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for support, help, and education. And that is the best that we can wish for. Again, you're never going to be able to save everyone. There is always, I mean, if I was to put it as a percentage, let's say you're a teenage girl, right? So we're going from, let's say 12 upwards. So more or less post-pubescent age group. There's a 20% risk as a baseline, I think.
Yeah.
Especially as they have a device on that in their hands. So we've got to take this seriously.
Yeah, definitely. We do have to take it seriously. It scares me because my daughter's 8. She doesn't have a phone or anything like that. She has a tablet, but I'm very, it's easier at the moment for me to monitor it because she's 8.
Yeah.
But as soon as they do hit those teenage years, it's really hard to monitor that.
Yeah.
So just having those real honest conversations. And I think what you just said then, so telling them that we can help.
Right.
We can help.
Right.
We're not going to judge. We're not going to get
Right.
angry. We can help.
Yep.
That is, I think, the best way of putting it.
And you're not going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And your device is not going to be taken away unless there's something that I need from it. And your computer, your console, your Xbox is also not going to be taken away unless I need something from it.
Yeah.
We're going to work as a team on this.
Yeah.
And that's your best bet.
Yeah.
Well, the latest thing that I can think of, which is your best bet. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of going back on sort of online safety, what do you think are the biggest risks right now that people might not realise? I think people do know a lot about online safety at the moment. It's spoken about a lot, but do you have anything that you think that people don't really realise about?
That now that we have children and teenagers on the internet, it's like you're dropping them at the park and driving home and saying, I'll be back back later. Have a good time.
It's a great way of putting it. That's exactly what you're doing.
And I just want us to realise that. This isn't, for me, it's never been a conversation of parenting decisions on whether you give your child a device or what age they should have as a device. I think the government should look at that a bit more closely. But this is a conversation about the fact that children are online. And even if you're a parent who've decided not to give your child a device, the school are using devices. I do sessions with primary school children and they've all got iPads, so you can't escape it, right? And they are now accessible by the world. And that's what we should remember. It's like never before. To sexually harm a child before the internet, you largely, in general terms, had to go through 4 steps. First one is identify a child you believe is groomable and that has the potential to arouse you. Step 2, win the trust of the family and the parents that surround the child. Step 3, get the child alone. Step 4, finish off the grooming process with you and the child alone, and then begin to exploit or abuse. Now we have the internet and children have devices in the palm of their hands. Offenders can't believe how lucky they are. They probably talk amongst themselves at what a great time it is to be alive, because the first 3 steps are already done for them. You don't need to identify a child that's potentially groomable, because now you just use the AI software to send out 15,000 messages, personalized messages off the back of someone's gaming platform that you're meeting them on and how often they've played recently with the click of a button. And then you're just waiting for people to take the bait.
Jesus. You
don't need to win the trust of the family or parents surrounding the child, because the child is already on their own. The parents and family aren't there when they're on their device. And then, of course, step 3 was get the child alone. You've already got the child alone. And then it's just step 4, which is easier now, because communicating with a child through text is going to be easier. It's an easier challenge than doing it in person. Communicating with a child in person isn't straightforward to win their trust. So it's completely changed the landscape, and we understand that. What I just explained, nobody, I don't believe, is going to be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. That just makes complete sense. So again, the conversations. I deliver workshops in primary schools. I deliver sessions in secondary schools. I deliver really cool sessions to college kids as well, because they're slightly older, so you can talk to them very differently. And the online safety is part of the conversation, and is important to be, because we put them on the internet. So let's continue creating safeguards around it. But we're always chasing, because we can never be at the forefront of this, because the kids know more than us. The new app is out and they all know how to use it, and we are 3 years before even discovering that they're on it. Right? It's like, for example, Snapchat. Right? Now, I Snapchat has never been something that I've used. It's the later generation's social media. I would have no clue of how to work it. And so that's a nice example. There's the next one and the next one. So we're constantly playing catch up. So again, that overall conversation, please come to me. I will help you and I will support you, and you will not be in trouble, is a good baseline approach.
I think so. And I think I love how you explained the steps. I've never really thought of it like that. And I think someone that is in this kind of world, that made so much sense to me. And it's made me go, oh my God. I mean, we all know about online safety. Because it's everywhere in the media and it's all about it. But you've just explained it, I think, better than I think anyone has explained that I've seen on the internet or in the media. So thank you. Hopefully that people will hear that, and that's going to help people, because it is incredibly dangerous. And it scares me massively. And there's another app that someone was using. I can't even remember what it's called. I can't remember what it's called. It's Snapchat. I hate, because that is the worst. I was on it for a very short period of time in my 20s, and I thought, no, I don't like it. And there's another one where you can go in and it's like a WhatsApp, but it's for lots of different Discord. I can't remember what it's called. But that's a really dangerous one as well. I've heard about that, even though I can't remember what it's called.
Well, it's the whole gaming thing. Yeah. I think you were talking about Discord.
That's it.
Discord,
right.
So the whole gaming structure has potential to be very dangerous, because when you're playing FIFA on Xbox Live, you're playing with just people in a big chat room, and you've got your headset on, and you're not really paying attention to all the conversation that's going on in your microphone. So we have opened up children and teenagers to the whole world.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to address this. And we may be in a situation where my grandchildren say to me, what the hell were you lot doing? Having under 18s on the internet? Like, what were you all playing at?
What are you doing?
You gave devices to... It's similar to, we say to the generations before, what the hell were you doing smoking at the back of the aeroplane? Like, my dad used to smoke at the back of the aeroplane. Like, that was normal. Like, it must have stunk. No air conditioning can
awful.
sort that out, right? And even for me in my 20s, through my 20s, before the smoking ban came, you used to be able to smoke in restaurants. And so you would go in and they'd say, smoking on non-smoking table. And you'd be sat next to a table where they've all just lit up after their dinner. And it used to just be normal. So now the kids of today look at us and like, what the hell were you lot doing? Right. So I hope, I have my fingers crossed, in our lifetime, we will see the same response back to us. And that means something got done about it.
Yeah. That's a really good way. I hope, hopefully.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
I hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I want to ask a few questions that kind of about like the myths about abuse, because I always find I'm having to explain a lot about this to people. And I think, it is really difficult when people haven't been abused. They don't understand it as best that we do, because obviously we've been there. So what are some of the most dangerous myths around abuse, do you think?
I think one of them is, if it took you that long to say something, it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah.
Children will protect themselves from terrible situations that they feel uneasy about by boxing them up and putting them away. It could be a bullying situation. It could be your mum and dad physically fighting in the home. It could be a neglect situation. It could be any type of abusive situation that's making you feel really uneasy. You haven't got the development to look at it at that time. You're 8, you're 10, you're 13, you're 15. You don't even want to address that. So the brain will protect you by boxing it up and putting it somewhere, and then bringing the box to you when you turn into an adult, because it's time that you had a look at this. And that's so common that but it's very difficult for people to understand that. And I would like people to understand that that is very normal off the bat. I also feel that we've already mentioned about that the sentence that I use in my training that I deliver is, sexual abuse can feel nice.
Yeah.
A very confronting sentence. I get people to write it down, right? So we create a booklet throughout my session when I deliver to the police, social workers, frontline practitioners, teachers, and we write down these difficult statements because I want people to really feel them. And that's another myth. And that can happen, that sentence can be applied to different ages in different ways, right? So you take a 15-year-old girl who's in a relationship with a 21-year-old man, and he is pushing her for sex. She feels uncomfortable, but she feels empowered, and this is exciting, and her mates can't believe how cool it is either, and it's given her social status at school. So that it, and what they've done so far with the foreplay and the kissing, that actually feels nice, but it's an abusive, exploitative situation. So that's how I try to explain that sentence, and I hope we can continue speaking more about that as time goes on. And the other myth is, speaking to children and teenagers about this will ruin their innocence. If a child's or teenager's innocence is ruined through the conversation around education of body awareness and online safety, then we did it wrong. We weren't good enough with that interaction if it ruined their innocence. We're not trying to put the fear of God inside young people. We're just trying to explain that there are some dangers in this world, and we just want to protect you from them. It should be an empowering conversation, one that they take away with them forever. So the myth of it would ruin, I don't want my daughter's or my son's innocence ruined, which is a recent email that I got from a parent who said that they're not surprised that parents pull their children out of some of my sessions. I would do the same. They're just not understanding what's going on. And that is why today, I don't know when this is going out, but today I posted a video of my full session, right? So I spoke at a conference, an event. They recorded it brilliantly with great cameras, etc. And I decided to post it. And I've actually posted loads of my sessions in schools to young people because I want people to see what I'm doing. Because otherwise they're just too worried that they'd rather stick to the curriculum or not bring me in. And in a speaker's world, that is like suicide, really, right? Because you're posting your product online. You should be clipping it to try to get people to book you. As a speaker, you never post your full content. But I've decided to because it feels like it's the only way at the moment.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, it's crazy when people are, especially with everything that's going on in the media at the moment, you would think people are wanting to educate their children. And I understand it can be scary. Well, maybe not scary, maybe that's not the right word.
Uncomfortable.
But uncomfortable, absolutely, yeah. Thank you. Uncomfortable. And people don't want to think about it, don't want to talk about it. But until we do, it's going to keep happening. And this is what I don't understand why people... And the thing is also with children are so... They're so much more than what we think that they are as well. They understand so much more than we give them credit for. And I think also having a child, I know, like my daughter she's not like any normal. If I thought of an 8-year-old, she's still incredibly naive and still very vulnerable, of course, but she gets it.
They can take concepts on.
100%. And if you talk to them in the right way, which is obviously what you are doing, they will get it and it will stick with them.
And that discomfort of having the initial conversations is your discomfort. It's not the child's discomfort. If you can communicate with them in an interesting way, they're interested to want to know more, right? So that's your discomfort. So we need to get over that. And that is nothing in the face of the discomfort that you would feel if your son or daughter at 25 years old sat opposite you and said, Mum, Dad, something happened to me. It happened in this house. It was going on for a year. I didn't tell anyone about it. And one of the reasons why is because I didn't really understand what it was because no one had talked to me about it. And that is a regret that you will carry on for the rest of your life that will never disappear. Yeah,
that's so true. So true. So well said. Thank you. So really quick, sort of to wrap things up, I just wanted to sort of ask a few more questions really, really sort of quickly. But I kind of answered this and it's kind of reflecting on the whole of this podcast. But what keeps you going in this work?
The fact that children and teenagers have a right to a safe and playful childhood. And it is our responsibility as adults to provide it for them. And so that's what we must do. Yeah. And that is my motivation for continuing to try my best to overcome the barriers, face the discomfort, figure out ways to solve the challenges, and continue trying to make the best content and encourage the best conversations around this very difficult topic area.
Absolutely. Well said. And lastly, if someone is listening right now and something doesn't feel right, what should they do?
So you have a number of options. You can reach out to a national charity. Lots of them have anonymous phone lines or chat services that you can use. You can speak to a trusted friend or family. And if you are under 18, if you're going to speak with a friend first, that's okay, but the conversation must end with an adult. Also, if you're not ready to take those 2 steps yet, another well-known option is journaling. So you could write down 2 sentences that represent how you're feeling. Come back 1 week later, revise the 2 sentences and write another 2 sentences. Now you have 4 and continue down that path until you structure everything that you're feeling and you get it off your chest. So there are 3 options there. You can speak to a charity, you can speak to someone who you know, or you can journal. And that's just 3 of many options. But I think they're useful ones.
Especially to start with as well. If you're thinking about coming forward, going to the police is a very scary concept. And it took me a very long time to get there. So, yeah, definitely journaling was one of the ones that, funnily enough, they use that as evidence for me as well.
Okay.
So I started journaling when I was back in my early 20s. So that was all used as evidence.
Right.
Which makes
great. Yeah, that's made me think. Yeah, that's definitely
the things that you were saying, I'm like, oh, well, because it was all very much his word against mine or my word against his, but they still. So it's that's a whole other conversation about like the justice system and like the police and all that sort of thing. And I talk about it a lot. We won't get into that because we have to finish. But yeah, I think they're great ways to start. So, well, thank you so much, Jeremy. I can't believe it's already been an hour. It's just flown by. So, it's been amazing to have you here. You've spoken about so many insightful things. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for doing everything that you do. I didn't really touch on something to say, so but that's something that people can look on. Where can people find you and find your work?
So my website is jeremyindika.com, Indika spelled Indika. And if you go there, there's links to everything else that's going on, which includes the social media. I've got all the videos that I've ever professionally recorded there, which people are starting to use in training, and also my podcast, and also the Something to Say movement that I created. So it's all there. There's the home, jeremyindika.com.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you so much for coming in. And anything else you'd like to say before we end?
No, that's it. And thanks for bringing me in.
You're
I'm looking forward to this being out. And I would say to people who are still engaging with it, I challenge you with something. And that is to take one thing that stayed with you from this conversation and begin another conversation with someone else using it.
Love that.
Because if everybody does that, and we have 100 people that do that, then that's another 100 conversations that are created, because it's the silence that's allowing this to thrive. And we all have the power to break that.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you.